Hey everybody, welcome back. We hope you've been enjoying our latest Western swing here through Georgia, and we are in the middle, almost smack dab in the middle of the Chickamauga battlefield. I'm not sure how many of you have ever been out here. This is my first time standing here at William Carnes Tennessee Battery. And you obviously can tell where we are, right? I kind of see woods over there. Oh, here's some cannons. Carnes has some 6-pounders and some 12-pounders, howitzers along with it. So not really a long-range battery. You walk over here, you can get really up on me there. Chris Mikowski behind the camera. You can see some other markers over there. As we go over here, I'll make sure to block the camera here so you don't see something, and you really can't see a whole lot, right? Imagine if you were in Carnes Battery on September 19th, 1863. You were told to march to the sound of the guns. You know that Wright's Tennesseans are off to your right. You see the 38th Tennessee near you, and suddenly you are told to unlimber in this position here, okay? You have the impression there might be a road off to your left, the Lafayette Road, and you start to understand that there's Yankees off in this direction here, okay? And you start to do your valiant service. It looks like you're on the flank of your army, so to speak, for a little while, or at least on the flank of this part of the army, but things start going poorly. The Union starts really firing back, and just like anybody who ever fought in the Civil War, they claimed that they had no support on their left, and soon they didn't have any support anymore even on their right, and all of a sudden 10, 20, 30 plus of their horses are shot down. Eventually the commander, Carnes, gives the order for some of these guys to actually fall back. They're going to try to get the battery out there. They don't have enough horses. They can't do it. So eventually the Southerners are in a predicament. This battery, you've got Union soldiers, Van Cleve's guys starting to arrive over there, and they are facing a dangerous threat. And immediately the Confederates are going to just try to make their way out. I think only 30 or 40 of them actually made it out. The Union swarms over this position, starts hacking away the guns from the limbers. They drag the guns away, but not far enough. Now, that made perfect sense, didn't it? You know how this fits into the battle? No, you probably don't. And either did the people in Carnes' battery, nor in Wright's brigade, the Tennessee troops that were with them. Before I hand this off to someone who actually understands this stuff and might be able to make some sense of it, let me just show you. This is the Chickamauga battlefield, and we are right about here. You can see Carnes marked off to the left. That's north, that's the Lafayette Road. And you can see the Tennessee troops that are either supporting or fighting alongside them. So we've got some wind, we've got the windscreen on, but to try to make sense of it through the wind, let's talk to Jim Ogden. He's the historian here at the Chickamauga and Chattanooga National Military Park.
Well, thank you, Gary, and we certainly do need to try to make sense of it. But what happened to Carnes' battery on the afternoon of September the 19th as this Battle of Chickamauga, as we know it in the history book, as this battle now flows south, as Cheatham's division, 6,500, mostly Tennesseans, has been committed to the fight, and Wright's brigade and Carnes' battery, the very left of Cheatham's front line, has come into the fight. And literally, you have men who are simply orienting on where the sound is and where the fire is. As Gary related, Carnes is going to be concerned about his left. He actually sends his battery first sergeant off to try to reconnoiter on the left flank, and finds there are Federals closing in. In fact, this battle is flowing southward, not just because the units marching to the sound of the guns are coming from the south and moving north, and the sound seems to be loudest directly in front of them, but also because each unit's southern flank, right flank for the Union troops, left flank for Confederate troops, has been threatened by the approach of the next enemy force. And that's what's going to catch Carnes in that trouble that Gary described, when Horatio Van Cleve's division comes in and fires at short distance, disables so many of Carnes' men and horses, and then runs forward and seizes the guns. But Van Cleve's men do not have Carnes' battery for long, because the next Confederate division, the division commanded by Alexander Peter Stewart, a relatively new formation within the Army of Tennessee, with some relatively inexperienced soldiers in some of its brigades. That division having been sent northward by Braxton Bragg himself, with really the only guidance of that he was to move to the right and that he must be governed by circumstances. Stewart's division is marching north just at the moment that Carnes's and Wright's left flank is being threatened, and Stewart then is advised by a Leonidas Polk staff officer that this is a good place to go in and across the large Brock Cornfield to the southeast of where we are right now. Stewart's division, 3 brigades, one behind the other, Clayton's Alabamans, Brown's Tennesseans, and then William Bates' mixed brigade of Alabamans, Georgians, and Tennesseans. That brigade will come in, and those 3 brigades, one after the other, will move forward and drive Van Cleve's men back, recapture the guns and equipment of Carnes's battery, or most of that equipment, and then surge on beyond over this scene of horror amongst the casualty of Carnes's battery, its horses and men, and as Clayton's brigade becomes fought out, Brown's Tennesseans pass forward and continue the pressure on the Federals, driving off to the northwest. And as Brown's men reach their culminating point, William Bates' brigade will move forward, and they'll actually penetrate the Union line in the area of the Brotherton Farm. Now, many of you all probably know the Brotherton Farm is a principal landmark for something that happens on another day in this battle, but it is the scene on September the 19th of a Confederate breakthrough as well, when William Bates' brigade, splitting into several pieces, crosses the Lafayette Road there to their left. Clayton's men, reorganized, will move across the road as well. And for a few moments, it seems as if the Confederates are sundering the Union line near its then approximate center. And in that fighting, one of the regiments of Bates' brigade is the 58th Alabama, one of those relatively new formations, although that's a little technical because of reorganizations. But that regiment will see some of its heaviest fighting of the war here on this afternoon of the 19th. And Dr. Hodges has got an artifact from that unit.
This is an ambrotype of a gentleman named Wilson Walker. He was a member of the 58th Alabama Infantry, part of Stewart's division, Bates' brigade, that charged across this area. And on the evening of the 19th, as Bates' brigade crosses the Lafayette Road, Walker is shot in the head. He will collapse. He will eventually be picked up and taken to the hospital. He will recuperate. He does attempt to return to the Army as an ambulance driver, but he's unable to that. He's discharged. He does survive the war, joins the United Confederate Veterans, and will return here to Chickamauga. One of Walker's souvenirs of the battle was in his old age, he has turned white-headed, much as I have, but in the spot where the minie ball struck him in the head, his hair remained black to the day he died.
Very cool. So I think, and by the way, it's pretty cool to have here on the battlefield an ambrotype of a identified Confederate soldier. Let me tell you, identified Confederate soldiers in a hard image, a cased image like this, pretty rare stuff. So thanks for bringing this out, Dr. Hodges. Very, very cool. I think it's interesting too that if I get this right, behind the camera over there, you have a Union line facing toward us, okay? Toward us here. But beyond that, that line is sort of curving like this. See, we talked about this at Jay's Mill. There's this sort of Union line out there that's curving like this. As troops came in, they realized the Confederates were coming this way, so they bent back. That's the line behind the camera there. And what did we talk about? Who was threatening Carnes's battery over here? Here comes more Union soldiers. It's interesting the way that the battle lines are finally taking shape, and you start to see this question mark that you sometimes see on the map. So I'm not sure if I'll call this the question mark, but it's starting to take shape. Yeah?
Right. And getting out here and walking this ground, even though you can see so little down through the woods, you really begin to get an appreciation of just how difficult this battle was to control. And the Civil War Trust maps are very useful. Dave Powell's Maps of Chickamauga book has great value in helping you understand the battle. But all of those maps put things in a very static presentation. And getting out here on this ground, walking it, seeing the subtle changes in the terrain, realizing that for most of the Confederate advances, they are attacking uphill, that almost always the Union troops are higher than they are on the battlefield. It gives you a much greater sense of just how difficult this fight was to control and how much of a soldier's battle it was for those who participated in this fight. Leadership at higher levels is going to be that much more difficult, even though we also know there are problems in that leadership on both sides. The battle now has flowed into the afternoon of September the 19th, but it will continue southward from here as well, as more troops are drawn to the sound of the guns, as this Battle of Chickamauga, as we know it in the history books, spreads throughout this 19th day of September.
And this is interesting. I'm going to ask Jim again, to set us up for the next stop. So we've got some of Hood's troops going on here. We've got more Union troops showing up. Tease us up for our next stop at, I think, the Vineyard Field.
Well, many of you all know about how aggressive and impetuous John Bell Hood is, and he's out here looking to gain some more glory, particularly since he got knocked out really early in his last battle, last engagement. And so put yourself in Hood's shoes. You want to impress a certain young lady in Richmond. You've just finished a train ride here. You've been encouraged by the men of your old brigade to come and join them, and now you've been listening to the roar of the battle all day long, and it's getting closer. Can you resist the temptation to join the fight? So join us in a few minutes at another place on the battlefield, and we'll see whether or not John Bell Hood can resist the temptation to fight.
Man, my compliments, Jim, on an excellent transition there. We all shoot for that stuff on video that we shoot in one take, so way to go there. Thanks to Chris Mikowski behind the camera. Anthony, thanks so much for bringing out those special artifacts, and as always, for your lively description of the events, and again, for your great transition. Get inspired at battlefields.org. Help support battlefield preservation and education.